Okay, so we have all the elements of a SMART goal. But now, where do you start? I don't know. I'm not sure where I want to start. And this is the challenge that comes in. Too often, we don't know how to tackle such a big goal, and it gets overwhelming. And then it's even harder for us to achieve the goal because we're overwhelmed. So that's why I've developed the goal roadmap to help break down our big goals that can be overwhelming. Hi, I'm Chris LeBrun, your host of the Wholistic Productivity Podcast. As someone who's never been afraid of dreaming big and going for it all, I often find myself with a lot on my plate. I'm a husband and father, a nonprofit fundraiser, and an entrepreneur. What I've realized is my view of productivity was pretty toxic. After decades of believing that in order to do more, you had to work harder, I began to see productivity as this beautiful thing. Holistic productivity is the idea that you can accomplish your professional, personal, and purpose-driven goals in a healthy way, and doing so will make you happier and more fulfilled. Join me each week as we break down myths about productivity, share practical tips for maximizing your time, energy, and focus, and hear from others about their productivity journey. This is the Wholistic Productivity Podcast. Thank you so much for being here for episode number 5 of the Wholistic Productivity Podcast. My name is Chris LeBrun. Great to have you here. Love that you are prioritizing the things that are going to help you reach your goals and achieve the things that you want to achieve in life, in every area of your life. So glad that you are here. Glad that you are doing that and making it a priority. If you would do me just 2 favors, if you could go online and rate this show, we'd love to get 5 stars from you. Tell us why you like it and let everybody else know just what it is about this show that is making a difference in your life. And then if you could be a little bit more intentional about that and share this with someone, let them know that you are listening, that you are benefiting from it, and that you want them to achieve their goals as well. Really, that's what you're asking them and giving them the opportunity is to achieve their goals as well. So again, if you could do those 2 things, I would love it so much. We would thank you for doing that. This may be one of my favorite episodes that we are talking about. This is our series on the fundamentals of holistic productivity, things that are part of the framework. And this is our second in that series of fundamentals. And I just really love the topic. Today, we're talking about goals and how we can set goals more intentionally so that we have success. And again, this is all part of this series of elements within holistic productivity. I've said this before. Again, some of these may be new concepts or new ideas, and some of them you've probably heard before, but we are just putting a little different spin on it. So before we dive deeper into goals, I just want to say we're going to be talking about goals and projects and tasks today. If you haven't listened to episode 4, we break down those differences there between goals, projects, and tasks. You may want to listen to that. You won't be lost, though, if you haven't heard that episode, because today we are just focusing on setting goals. And the way that I like to do that is by using a goal roadmap to maximize our success with our goals. And you might think, setting goals is easy, no problem. But many of us struggle to reach our goals, or at least to reach them efficiently. This leads to frustration, unhappiness, and we are less likely to set goals in the future. So again, if we can set goals and achieve them in an easier fashion, in a better fashion, that is going to be part of our success. So let's start by something that I'm sure you've probably all heard before, and we won't spend a lot of time on this, but that is the idea of SMART goals. Now, SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Okay, so that's what makes up that SMART acronym. Now let's look into each one of those here. Specific, I want to be successful, is not specific enough. It's too broad, right? So you would say, I want to be a successful basketball player. Now we understand where your success is going to be. Measurable, and I'll say this is probably one of the biggest challenges that people have when setting goals. They don't set the finish line. Okay. If you don't know how to measure your success, when will you know if you've reached there? So you say, I want to be a successful NBA basketball player. Now we've set the bar of getting drafted. That's measurable. I'm a professional fundraiser in my 9-to-5 job, and I always have had very clear metrics. I need to go raise $1 million for this project, or I need to raise $2 million this year, or whatever it is. I used to have goals when I was a major gift officer of having 15 visits with donors every month. It's measurable. We don't have to wonder if we've hit it or not. Improving our sales figures is not measurable. Improving them by 10%, now that's measurable. So again, this is one of the challenges that I think people run into all the time. They don't set measurable goals, and that is so important. So the next one in SMART, we've talked about specific, we've talked about measurable. Now we're talking about achievable. You would think that this would be obvious, but this is another aspect that is often overlooked. Look, I'm all about the aspirational goal, that stretch goal, but they have to be achievable. I often see people overcompensate when making a goal measurable. If you are trying to grow by 100% or even 50%, it may not be achievable. So just realize what you're capable of doing, stretch it a little bit beyond that, and that's where you want to set your goal. Now, again, you can have another goal later that moves the bar just a little bit further, but don't try to overdo it on your first time out. R is for relevant. Your goal needs to be part of your long-term vision or aligned with your values. If you're trying to become a successful basketball player, any goal that takes your focus off of basketball isn't relevant for you. Again, if you are trying to launch a side business, doing other things may not be helping you achieve that goal. They may be part of another goal, and that's okay too. But just remember that you want your goals to be relevant to your long-term vision or aligned with your values. The final part of the SMART goals is time-bound. Goals need to have an end date. Again, if I want to say I want to be a millionaire, I have earned $1 million in my lifetime. I'd never thought of it that way. One day, my kids asked me, "Dad, have you spent $1 million on us?" I was like, I haven't even earned $1 million. But then I started doing the math. I was like, well, okay, carry the 7 and divide by 5. No, I have earned $1 million in my lifetime. I don't have it today. So again, that is important, right? Have you ever heard of Parkinson's Law? Parkinson's Law states that the work expands so as to fill the time available for completion. In other words, in easier terms to understand, if you have a month to do a task, it's going to take you a month. If you have 2 months, it's going to take you 2 months. If you have a week, you'll probably get it done in a week. This is why everybody waits until the last minute to file their taxes, right? If you haven't done that, time is running out. You only have a few more days. If you're listening to this when the episode originally airs, but we fill the time that we have available to do the task. So make sure that your goals are aggressive. Don't be setting long-term goals without having small, manageable pieces that need to be done sooner so that you can have the drive to get them done. Now, SMART goals are a great start, but I think there's more that's needed to unpack the goal setting process. Let's look at this example. Our company wants to expand our global sales by 10% over the next 5 years. Is it smart? Well, yes. Well, it's very specific. We're looking at global sales. We're going to measure that by 10%. It's time bound over the next 5 years. So is it attainable? Yes, of course it is. Okay, so we have all the elements of a SMART goal. But now where do you start? I don't know. I'm not sure where I want to start. And this is the challenge that comes in. Too often, we don't know how to tackle such a big goal, and it gets overwhelming. And then it's even harder for us to achieve the goal because we're overwhelmed. So that's why I've developed the goal roadmap to help break down our big goals that can be overwhelming. The roadmap does a couple of things. First of all, it provides some clarity on the goal itself. Now, this will help us better understand the goal and be better prepared to achieve it. It also breaks down the goal into manageable pieces or milestones. This allows us to see our progress and to feel accomplished, and it also keeps us motivated. Now, the goal roadmap starts with a series of exercises and questions that you can answer for yourself. Doesn't take very long to do this. The first one is to write an elevator pitch. Now, you know what an elevator pitch is. If you had to explain or pitch your goal to somebody over the course of an elevator ride, okay? You don't have very long to go just a couple of floors, so you need to be able to clearly explain the goal to others. It's been living in your head for a long time, and it makes sense to you, but how would you explain it to others? Here's an example. XYZ Logistics wants to build on their domestic reputation in the industry and expand operations to global markets to secure their standing as a global industry leader. It's pretty boring sounding, but it paints a clear picture. You want to expand globally. You can probably say it a lot better than that, but you get the idea, right? So that's the first thing we want to look at. What is the definition of the goal, or how would you pitch it to somebody in an elevator? Second thing that we look at is, why is the goal important? Now, that seems silly to bring up, but too many times we don't understand the why behind the goal. Are you starting a side business for the money? Yes, that's a nice thing. If you weren't looking for the money, you'd just be doing that thing for fun on the side. But why do you want the money? Let's pause here for a quick break. We'll be right back. This episode is sponsored by Efficient.app. Big shout out to Alex and Andra from Efficient.app for sponsoring the Wholistic Productivity Podcast from the very beginning. We love that. When you are looking for new software, Efficient.app is the place to go. They have already done all the research for you, which saves you the headache of doing a trial of every single app you want to look at. They offer hundreds of product reviews and comparison videos that are informative and fun to watch. Want to hear how Motion stacks up against Monday.com or Asana or ClickUp? They have a review for that. Here's what I love. They promise no BS software reviews. They tell you exactly what they love and what they don't love. And best of all, they have negotiated special deals, discounts, or even extended trial periods for a bunch of different products. If you're going to look for software, do yourself a favor and let Efficient.app do the work for you. Click on the link in the show notes. That's the best way to get there because you'll let them know that you appreciate them sponsoring the Holistic Productivity Podcast as well. Check them out, efficient.app. The link in the show notes. You won't regret it. That's a more interesting question. And it's one that you need to understand to make decisions along the way. Do you want the money to get out of debt? Do you want the money so that you can be able to quit your 9-to-5 job? Or are you just looking for some greater financial security as you get closer to retirement? All of these are strong whys, and understanding which one you are going after will make a big difference. If you have not read the book, Start with Why by Simon Sinek, I highly recommend you read it. It unpacks a list of companies who have succeeded because they had a strong understanding of their why, as well as some that failed because they didn't have a strong why. If we go back to our example, increasing global sales helps to stabilize stagnating domestic sales and helps the company increase revenues for the first time in 3 years. Now, that is a why, right? I understand the importance there. I see the value in doing that. So that's the second thing that we're going to look at as we're building our goal roadmap. The next thing we want to do is identify the team members that you need to help you reach your goal or the roles that you need to fill. Goals are usually not achieved in a vacuum. And even if you are a solopreneur, you may need help from contractors. You may need expertise that is outside of your expertise. So we want to identify who those people are. Sometimes we forget who needs to be involved, right? We need approval from our manager, our vice president, or maybe the president. Maybe there's other departments that are involved in reaching this goal: IT, sales, accounting, communications. If you bring these folks on board earlier, it's usually a smoother process. I have been in that situation where somebody brought our team on very late in the process. And only then were we able to see that there were some challenges that could have been identified sooner. And if we had identified them sooner, it would have saved time and money and headaches and frustration. So make sure that you understand who is involved, get them involved from a very early point in the process so that their expertise can shine through. Along the same lines, the next step is identify the resources that are needed for your goal. Too often we get halfway into a goal and we realize that, man, we need something else. This is critical for budgeting. You don't want to find out halfway through that you need more money or more resources. So if you don't know what you need, you're not going to be prepared. Looking at our example of increasing global sales by 10%, well, the resources that we need are going to include regional offices. We're going to need local sales teams. Each one of those offices is going to need technology infrastructure. There needs to be travel budgets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The next part of the goal roadmap is just to reiterate the measurable outcomes that we're looking for. Like I said, people often have a hard time developing measurable goals, and there's really a lot of different metrics that we can use. It can be time, it can be revenue, it can be a percentage of growth, maybe it's social media shares, likes, follows. Whatever it is, technology has made measuring our goals easier than ever, but we still struggle with it. And so this is the way I like to kind of break it down. I ask the question, what does success look like? This gets people outside of what we traditionally think about for metrics, all those lists of things that I just mentioned. If we go back to our example, XYZ Logistics wants to increase sales by 10%. That is very measurable. We know if we've hit the bar or not. In our elevator pitch, we also defined that we want to be a global industry leader. And while that is not as objective, it's a little more subjective, there are certainly organizations that might rank your company as a global industry leader. And when that happens, then you can take that as a sign of success. But it's important to understand, what does success look like? So always ask that question. Finally, the last thing that we look at, and this is fun, it's nice to identify a reward for completing a goal. It's not always necessary, but this provides just another dimension of motivation, right? But you have to be careful. If your goal is to get out of debt, you may not want a trip to Tahiti as your reward for getting out of debt. It might put you right back there. Okay, so don't get caught up in material things. Maybe it's taking a day off, after you reach that big goal because it took a lot out of you. Maybe it is having a nice dinner out with your spouse. Maybe it is just sleeping for the day. Whatever it is, it's just one more piece of motivation that you can use to celebrate when you hit that definition of what success looks like. Okay, so those are the questions that we ask as part of this goal roadmap. And now that you've answered all of those, the next step is creating milestones to help you achieve the goal. We talked about this in the last episode. Milestones can be the projects. They are sort of the strategies that we use, or the direction that we take on this road trip that we're taking with our goals, right? But milestones help break up the big goals into more manageable pieces. I remember taking a road trip with my parents as a little kid, and my siblings are a lot older than I am, so I kind of grew up as an only child. And I remember being in the back of that station wagon and watching the mile signs go by. It helped me realize how close we were to the next destination. That's what milestones do for us on achieving our big goals, especially if you're not sure where to start or what to do next. Breaking up the goal into smaller pieces is very helpful because it's not intuitive for everyone to know where to start or what to do next. You can think of milestones as a project or several projects that help us accomplish our goals. Again, if you listen to episode 4, projects are the strategies. If you didn't listen to it, there's a link in the show notes. But what are the things that I need to do? You want to start with the biggest projects and just write them down, list them out, everything that you need to complete this goal. Don't get bogged down with all the tactics. Right now, we're just writing down the projects that are needed. What are the milestones? Ask yourself, are there deadlines with any of these projects? You want to write that down. If not, again, can you add a deadline? We've talked about Parkinson's rule, where a task will increase to fit the time allowed. So can we set a deadline so that we're motivated to get it finished? Once you have all of the projects listed out, now you can go back to each one and start breaking them down into individual tasks. Okay? Don't do that until you get all of your projects done. Then go back and break it down task by task by task. So we're starting at a really high level, and at each part of the process, we're getting more granular each time we go through this. It's a lot easier to look at an individual project and say, what are the tasks that I need to accomplish this, and keep breaking it down from there. So again, if we're not sure where to start, this process can help us identify the major milestones or projects that we need to accomplish, figure out when they're due so that we have some urgency behind them. We've broken them down into smaller tasks that we can do later. And again, add dates to those tasks if they have deadlines. And this is the basis for all the other planning that we're going to do, because we'll keep coming back to this goal roadmap over and over, looking at the projects, looking at the tasks, looking at the deadlines, especially to know when we need to do what we need to do. Now, for some people, it is helpful to have a more creative way of expressing their goal. This was very analytical. This is very list driven and logical. Not everyone is logical based. I get that, right? So if you need to do something more creative in terms of expressing your goal, I absolutely encourage that. That might be making a vision board or using some sort of drawing or art to represent your goal. Again, I encourage people to do that if it's helpful for them, but I still think there is a lot of value in going through the analytical process of answering the questions and then using the creativity after that. Now, again, this is where paper has a huge leg up on your digital planning app or to-do list, right? You can use paper to create this vision board or whatever it is that you want to use to express creatively what your goal is. I have a section in my Holistic Productivity Planner that has a worksheet to go through the questions on the analytical side. And then there's just a page of blank space to satisfy that artistic side and create something that represents your goal. But again, digital has a lot of tools that we need to set up tasks, subtasks, create due dates, assign team members, link projects together, or to make them dependent on each other. So again, there's pros and cons to both ways, but just make sure that you are doing what you need to answer those questions and to set the creative vision that you need so that you can go out and reach your goal. That's it for this episode. Hope that you found something here that can be helpful for you, that can help you achieve your goals better. Remember, this is all part of our series on the fundamentals of holistic productivity. So I hope you have been listening. Again, last episode, we looked at goals, projects, and tasks. Next week, in our next episode, we're going to look at how to win your week in just 15 minutes. I call it my Sunday strategy, and it is such a critical part of productivity. It builds on the milestones that we just created in our goal roadmap to help you be focused on what you need to do this week. I know you don't want to miss that. So the best way to hear that episode is to go to your favorite podcast platform and follow the show, subscribe to the show, make sure that you are getting notified when each episode drops. That's going to be how you hear that episode on Sunday Strategy. While you're there, again, if you want to rate the show, we would love that. Give us 5 stars if you think we've earned it. If you don't think we've earned it, talk to me. Let me know what we can do better. I want to make this show as helpful as possible. But again, rating the show 5 stars is going to be helpful for other people to be able to find this show and get the benefit from it. Again, you can find us on social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, YouTube, LinkedIn. We're all at Holistic Productivity. Check out the show notes for this episode at holisticproductivity.com/5. And there's a lot of resources there that you can use that you've heard about on the show and that also we have available for you on the website. So check that out. As always, my hope for the show is that it will help you dream big, plan smart, and live fully. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time. Before I sign off, close your eyes for a minute, unless you're driving. But close your eyes and imagine this. It's Friday. You're excited for the weekend. TGIF, right? You're wrapping up the work week, getting ready to leave the office. But as you're walking out the door, you start to reflect on the week and you say, what did I even accomplish this week? It's a frustrating feeling and a horrible way to start your weekend. You know that you've worked hard all week, but you have little or nothing to show for it. If you've ever had these feelings at the end of your week, I have a special offer for you to help you on your productivity journey. I talk about it all the time. Being intentional with your time is one of the biggest parts of productivity. And one of the best ways you can be intentional is to plan your week. Planning your week provides clarity on your priorities. It eliminates confusion about what needs to be done, and it sets you on a path for success. Now, I've developed the perfect tool to help you plan your week. I call it my Sunday strategy, and I want to give you my Sunday strategy worksheet and guide absolutely free when you sign up for my weekly newsletter. The guide offers clear strategies for using the principles of holistic productivity to plan your week. You'll have a mindset shift away from the toxic aspects of productivity, and you'll get step-by-step directions for using the Sunday strategy worksheet. With my Sunday strategy, you only need 15 minutes each Sunday to plan out your entire week. It'll let you identify major projects and tasks that are coming up, assign those projects to specific days, and best of all, there are different sections for each area of your life: professional, personal, and purpose-driven, so you can reach all of your goals. My Sunday strategy worksheet also includes a weekly habit tracker to keep you focused on the habits that you want to develop. So if you want to avoid those Friday feelings of frustration and despair, you need my Sunday strategy worksheet. It's the perfect planning tool to help you build the winning strategy for your week. It's a resource you can come back to each day to keep you focused on reaching your goals, and it's an accountability tool to help you track your progress. Basically, it can help you have the most productive week ever. Like I said, it is completely free when you sign up for my weekly newsletter, which also features more strategies and tips to help you dream big, plan smart, and live fully. To get my Sunday strategy worksheet and guide, go to mysundaystrategy.com and sign up. That's mysundaystrategy.com. There will also be a link in the show notes, but again, mysundaystrategy.com. Look forward to having you back here for the next episode of the Wholistic Productivity Podcast.